Hi everyone, in today's episode we are going to go through animal responses exam questions. The way I'm going to do this is that I'm going to show you from start to finish how to think, approach and answer the questions so that your answers are mark scheme specific. So let's begin. Identify two signaling molecules named in figure 20.1. Okay, let's read this figure together and try and identify where the signaling molecules are written. So looking on the left hand side, just skimming through, I can see ACTH, I can see cortisol, then looking on the right hand side, I can see adrenaline. Okay, we have 3 we can write from. So next one's to complete the table, and the table looks small, but of course just how it turns out in this document, but it is a 6 marker, which is something important to note about because when you really think about it, mark allocations are a bit strange, just like how money is weirdly allocated in the world. The fact that a table is 6 marks, but then you basically have to write some sort of, not an essay, but lots of information for a normal 6 marker question is a bit weird, right? So when you're in the exam, you're stuck on a question, and let's say it's like a 4 marker, and a 4 marker that's like a written question, not a table or something, just think to yourself, it's okay, you'll go back to it at the end, but there are many marks that are allocated to questions that are very simple compared to other questions that have the same amount of marks. So just always be wary of that. Don't beat yourself up if you don't know how to answer a question, because chances are you will be making up those same marks on a question that's much more easier and requires less of you. That's my digression. So let's actually do this. So essentially you need to say the response of the target cell and the role in the fight or flight response. So it says smooth muscles in the bronchioles. I always like to read the one that they put as an example, just so that I know what sort of a vibe my answer should be in. So it says muscle relaxes and the bronchioles dilate and allow more oxygen to reach blood. So I can see their role is a bit more specific. So I will do the same as well. So for the sinoatrial node, I'm gonna think, well, what is it do? I know that it fires impulses. So I'm gonna write that, However, there's one thing that needs to be noted and needs to be understood. I just went into the table just doing it right, just wanting to write my answers, but actually, when it comes to table questions, there's a little trick to it. I would implore you to read the information above it because I don't know if you guys noticed, but it says adrenaline. Now, if we're talking about adrenaline and its effects of the target cells, that means your response will be written in a different way. I wouldn't just write, silent atrial node, the response is firing impulses. No, I wouldn't. I would say it increases the rate of firing impulses. Do you see the difference? Because that second answer takes into the fact that I am speaking about the effects of adrenaline on this target cell. So that's the response, and the role in the fight or flight response would probably be, the increased heart rate, blood circulates around the body more quickly. Now, liver cells. What do? Glycogenolysis, that's what it does. What's the effect of adrenaline on liver cells? Well, it would increase the glycogenolysis. And the role in the fight or flight response would probably be, it makes more glucose available for respiration. Very obvious, very standard, easy. Okay, next one. This is the funny one actually, because I'll get into why it's funny, but first part is the response. So erector muscle in skin. What does it do? does contraction of muscle. That's really it. Now the funny part is the role in the fight or flight response. So when I first did this question back in year 13, I didn't get the answer to this because I never thought that this could be an answer. But essentially, have a go yourself. Just think in your head, what do you think the role would be? And if you do get this correct, then you know what? Pat on the back for you, because that's amazing. Because the answer here for the role in the fight or flight response is that it causes hairs to be raised on the skin and so makes the animal look bigger or more aggressive. Now, if that isn't funny to you, I don't know what is, because that's just hilarious. Which, you know what? Fair enough, it makes sense. If if you think about a really like a hairy animal, right? Normally their hair's flat. But imagine when contraction of the muscle occurs and they're in a fight or flight response, all their hairs stand up. So doesn't that make the animal look bigger, more aggressive? Next question says, describe the sequence of actions that occur once adenylyl cyclase is activated in the target liver cells. Now, this is literally, if you know the process, you can get the marks because you just stay the steps. But if you don't know it, then we can go through it together because this is my absolute favourite process in biology. It's just so neat. So basically, this is the diagram I used to memorise the steps. If I were to go through this, essentially, we start with number 1. Adrenaline binds the specific and complementary receptor on the cell membrane, cell surface membrane, sorry, on the liver cells. Now, that causes adenylyl cyclase, okay, which is an enzyme, to become activated. So it changes its shape and becomes activated. That's number 2. Number 3 is that active adenylyl cyclase catalyzes the conversion of ATP into CAMP, or cyclic AMP if you want to call it, which is a secondary messenger, which is something you should absolutely write in your notes because it comes up all the time. So that's number 3. Now, CAMP does something very interesting. Basically activates protein kinase and causes an enzyme cascade. Now let's think about this here. We're in the liver cell. What do liver cells mostly do? You know, we spoke about this in the question before. They do glycogenolysis, that's the word. That means they want to break down glycogen into glucose. So now, if we're activating protein kinase and that causes an enzyme cascade, that means that it allows for glycogen to be converted into glucose. Do you see how neat the steps are? Just amazing process. And this is basically called the secondary or second messenger model in the liver. So here, what does the question say? It says, describe the steps after after adenylyl cyclase is activated. Well, we talk about step 3 and 4. So we say how, it catalyzes synthesis of CAMP from ATP, and then CAMP activates the protein kinase, which causes enzymes to convert glycogen into glucose, and that's it. Okay, and that's the end of today's episode. Remember, the 2 most important exam techniques are read the question first and state all the obvious points. Over to you. Try some questions and let me know how it goes.